So looking at reality, Denmark is a nation about the size of the state of Colorado in population and GDP. They can't afford to continue to send $600 million a year to Greenland as a sort of wealth transfer to keep Greenland part of their kingdom. They can't afford to continue. But more than that, they're part of NATO, and NATO has Article 3 before it has Article 5. Article 3 says that every member state has the ability to defend their own territory, and then Article 5 come to the defense of others. Denmark can't even defend Denmark. They do not have the capability. NATO gives them a failing report card every year, let alone defend that entire giant GIUK gap. So that's from Greenland to Iceland to the UK, because just north of the UK is the Faroe Islands. So this is a huge area of responsibility. The country of Greenland is 1/3 the size of the continental US. It's the world's biggest island with 57,000 people. There's not a road between two towns in Greenland. They have zero infrastructure when it comes to developing as far as companies investing. There's just nothing there. Denmark has never bothered to develop Greenland. It has a colonial past. They can't afford to defend it. And if they could, they would. I begged them every year to put more toward their defense, to have a credible defense, to put assets in the Greenlandic area. But as a matter of fact, I had the former Danish ambassador yell in my face they would never give more to their defense. So they were, and that she worked for the government. So that is clearly, it was not on their dance card to actually make any changes. When I had one heroic mayor say to me, I have this map and I've designed, I want to do a road between my town and Kangerlussuaq, which is a major airport that our US military built when we occupied Greenland during World War II. We built all their ports, all their airports, and all modern buildings at that time. They were living in largely pre-industrial ways in Greenland before World War II. And when that mayor tried to build that little, it was a road, but it was a road for like three-wheeler vehicles. It was a simple road. He couldn't get Greenland or Denmark to step up and help fund it. So literally no infrastructure. Many people have no running water in their homes in Greenland. And they're related, they're very close with our native Alaskan population. And so I worked with the governor of Alaska to help build capacity in Denmark. I worked with the State Department to build capacity, in Greenland, to help them, achieve their Greenlandic dream. It's not going to happen if they are part of Denmark, because Denmark just, first of all, they don't really have the interest. But secondly, they don't have the capability.
We do need to discuss NATO here. I think we can all agree that the purpose of NATO in this day and age is really, really focused around Article 5. I mean, the reason why the Baltic countries in particular were admitted into NATO was because there's simply no way Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia could defend themselves as...
Finland has a real military. Their peer nations have real militaries. Denmark does not. Not yet. They're great allies, but they have a long way to go.
Carla, which peer nation of Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania could defend those countries against Russia?
I'm not talking about those countries, Ambassador.
Well, that's
talking about Denmark. So you're conflating. You're doing whataboutism, and I'm not.
No, I'm not at all. You said during this that
they're not claiming Greenland either.
What?
Those small countries are not claiming Greenland. We're talking about Denmark and Greenland, so let's stay on the subject.
You made that.
Yeah. But Rufus, go to your point about Article 5 in NATO. How is that applicable to what we're talking about?
The point here is that any NATO country. So there's a lot of talk, and other folks have said in the past that President Truman has wanted to buy Greenland, and that is true.
Yes, President Trump's the third U.S. president to propose
that is correct. But you know what the solution to President Truman was? NATO. Because when Denmark became NATO and NATO became this alliance, one of the purposes of NATO was simply that we wouldn't have to occupy the Baltic countries in order to
Right.
defend against a Russian threat, that in fact it's an all for one or one for all approach. And that's why Article 5 is so important. So, I mean, there is no, and I mean, look, the European leaders have gone on record for saying that if Greenland is ever invaded by an adversarial, by one of our opponents, that the alliance would be compelled to respond. And that's just simply true. And
Yeah.
remember,
Kind of like Ukraine,
Well, there
What?
was a response.
what's that?
kind of like Hong Kong. Okay.
Well, neither of those
Well,
countries are NATO.
yeah.
So I'm not sure I understand that.
What
Well,
I'm saying is that
Rivers-
Europe doesn't really have a credible deterrence.
Okay. I think some of the ambassador's points are important, that the infrastructure in Greenland is weak. It's hard. I mean, there is zero doubt that private industry, no country should necessarily, I mean, I think it would be extremely difficult at this day and age when we're talking about shutting down USAID like we are today, that the idea that we would spend literally trillions of dollars building infrastructure in a place like Greenland seems to be kind of missing the point of everything from what the Trump administration has stood for, especially in these first couple of weeks. I mean, we are talking about trillions and trillions of dollars of American taxpayer investment based on what Ambassador Sands just said.
That's not true. Sorry to interrupt, but Greenland, it has mining potential, but it hasn't realized it. So I was able to get funds to help them, get that in a good place. But as a matter of fact, there will be other ways they can live largely like Alaska with their sovereign wealth fund and have generational wealth if they build. And Governor Dunleavy has told them he will teach their leadership how to build that sovereign wealth fund, how to have credible mining, sustainable fisheries, all of these things
Right.
that they've successfully done in Alaska where people live well. That's something that we can do in knowledge transfer to Greenland. That doesn't involve trillions of dollars of government money.